Welcome to liveAIwire.com, where we take a calm and practical look at the developments shaping modern AI. In this episode, we explore 3 stories that illustrate how deeply these systems are entering everyday life. You can access every episode early on Patreon, and your support, even at the price of a coffee, really helps keep the podcast running. Let's get underway.
So let's start with a basic truth. AI is, well, it's not some far-off concept anymore, is it? It's here.
It's completely embedded, and it's already making these huge, life-altering decisions.
Exactly. Things like who gets parole, who gets screened for a job, even medical diagnoses.
And the sources we're looking at today, which all come from Stuart Kerr's reporting, they highlight this really critical tension. On the one hand, the tech itself, the architecture, is getting radically more efficient.
But on the other hand,
The way we're using it is getting more and more ethically, well, let's say complicated.
it really paints a picture of an industry moving at, just breakneck speed. And it seems like we're trying to unpack these 3 interconnected issues, Kerr flags, this lack of real moral agency, the big shift towards efficiency, and then this very tricky idea of synthetic empathy.
They're all tangled together. And they really change how we think about authority. So maybe let's start with the toughest one first, accountability. Or as Kerr calls it, algorithmic karma.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. Because if a machine is judging you, if it's making a call that changes your life, and it makes a mistake, a clear, quantifiable mistake, who takes the blame?
It's not a comfortable question at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But the legal system, it demands an answer.
And the central problem, which the sources really lay out, is this black box dilemma.
The opacity.
Exactly, the opacity. We're building these AI systems that are so immensely complex that even the engineers who designed them can't fully trace why a certain decision was made. They can tell you what it decided, but not always the why.
And that's a language that our entire justice system just can't understand.
Completely alien to it.
Which is why those findings from the Stanford HAI initiative are so, frankly, disturbing. They looked at real cases where AI failed in healthcare, and what they found wasn't a single person to blame, but a kind of systemic failure.
The culpability just evaporates.
It evaporates. The error is real. You can see it, but you can't pin the responsibility on anyone.
Okay.
And that means the whole idea of getting justice just breaks down.
And that leads to a much deeper sort of philosophical gap. Kerr makes this distinction really clearly. An AI can learn to mimic ethical choices. It can even, spit out an apology in a text box.
Right.
But it doesn't have consciousness. It doesn't feel pain or regret or understand the consequences of its actions.
So it's making these critical judgments without any actual values, without intention.
Right.
Think about a human judge, and their decision has weight because they understand the human cost. The sources are pretty clear that real morality requires that intention, that awareness, and that's still uniquely human.
It is. If the AI is just a prediction machine, optimized to hit a certain target like reduce reoffending, it's just going to follow the data. It's not going to reflect on fairness or the idea of a second chance. It's judging in a complete moral vacuum.
And this authority has crept in so quietly. Kerr uses that phrase, the algorithm will see you now, which I think is perfect. It shows how we've outsourced these huge decisions, from court sentencing to filtering resumes. It's moral outsourcing on a massive scale.
Without any of the accountability infrastructure to go with it.
So what's the path forward? We can't just stop the technology.
No, that's not realistic. The focus has to shift to building those frameworks for accountability.
And we are seeing some early signs of that. The European Parliament is pushing for AI to be trained within clear moral boundaries.
Yeah.
They're talking about ethical reflection mechanisms.
Which is an interesting idea, forcing the machine to at least simulate some kind of ethical check.
Yeah, even if it can't feel it. And then you have something like the Stanford AI Bill of Rights here in the States. It's focused on transparency, on human responsibility.
When that's the key, right. It's not about punishing the algorithm that's meaningless. It's about making sure there is always a human, a person, who can be held accountable when the system fails.
I think that's the big takeaway here. AI is a tool, a powerful one. And its morality is only ever a reflection of what we put into it. And if we forget that, we risk outsourcing conscience itself.
And what's really fascinating is how that moral complexity, that black box problem, is directly tied to the financial cost of these systems.
Ah, right. Because these massive opaque models require just a monumental amount of computational power. So this pivot we're seeing isn't just about ethics, it's about economics.
Exactly. Google is basically telling its engineers to work smarter, not bigger. They're running up against compute budgets, ballooning infrastructure costs.
The ones the McKinsey Global AI report flagged.
Precisely. That whole bigger is better mindset that dominated the last decade. It's hitting a wall, a very real, very expensive wall.
And this is where the tech gets really interesting. Google's answer, or one of their big answers, is something called more mixture of recursions.
And this isn't just a minor tweak. It's a fundamental challenge to how these models have been built for years.
So how would you explain more in simple terms?
Well, think of a traditional big AI model as this huge, bespoke, industrial machine. To do its job, it has to run everything through all of its massive, unique parts every single time. It's incredibly powerful, but also incredibly inefficient.
And more is different. It's that recursive idea.
That's it. Recursion lets the model reuse its core components over and over. Instead of one giant single-use machine, it's more like a compact, elegant toolkit that it can apply cyclically and dynamically.
And the results are pretty staggering. The sources say more can cut memory usage by 55%.
And it's not just cheaper. In many cases, it's actually outperforming the old transformer models on really complex, long context tasks, so you're getting better performance for a fraction of the cost.
Which is driving this whole internal culture shift Kerr calls the pivot to frugality.
Right. The new goal isn't just to scale up to the next trillion parameters. The new goal is elegance. It's about optimization. Building smarter modular systems for specific tasks, not just for winning benchmarks.
It feels like a necessary correction. I mean, the demand for AI is exploding, but the physical infrastructure, the electricity, the cooling for data centers, that can't keep up forever.
It can't. The industry basically has to innovate its way out of a computational dead end. And it's not just Google. This is happening across the board.
You mean like Meta's work with AUNet?
Exactly. AUNet is another really clever way they're tackling training overhead, trying to make the whole process cheaper and faster from start to finish. The transformer monoculture is finally being challenged.
And there's even academic work backing this up.
Yeah.
The sources mention an ARC's paper showing small modular models can outperform the giants.
They can, especially if they're set up to use things like recursion and external memory intelligently. Again, it's about being smarter, not just bigger.
So this push for efficiency, it's not just a back-end concern for engineers anymore. It's actually critical to the user experience. The reason AI search feels fast and responsive is because of this kind of smart engineering.
Absolutely. The need for that architectural elegance connects the company's financial health directly to the user's experience.
Which sets us up perfectly for the last piece of this puzzle. We now have these hyper-efficient, non-conscious systems that can mimic us perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when we apply that efficiency to simulating human connection? This is the ethical blur of synthetic empathy.
And this is where it gets really personal, moving from the technical to the psychological. You have systems from companies like Hume AI that use tone modulation to sound genuinely kind or concerned. And the question is that a real connection, or is it just a dangerously convincing illusion?
Their goal is emotionally intelligent communication at scale.
Yeah.
But I mean, scale and intimacy feel like total opposites. Intimacy is small. It's specific.
It is. And this tech is already being integrated into what you might call invisible infrastructure. Emotional AI that can detect your stress levels from your voice, deployed in workplaces through platforms like Copernica, is potentially evaluating your emotional state all the time.
And that's a world away from a simple chatbot asking, "How are you?" This is a system designed to detect and respond to your vulnerability. And that line between a helpful tool and a confidant, it starts to get very, very blurry.
There's a Nature editorial the sources point to that warns about exactly this, especially for vulnerable groups, the elderly or isolated children. If you give them a care bot that is perfectly empathetic, perfectly agreeable, do they stop trying to engage with messy, difficult, but real human beings?
It's the attachment trap.
Yes. The research on illusions of intimacy is so clear on this. We can't help but anthropomorphize these bots. When something mimics care perfectly, we project real feeling onto it. We start to believe it actually cares.
Even though we know, logically, it's just a predictive text generator.
Exactly. And when that's invisibly woven into education or entertainment for kids, what does that do to their emotional development? If they only ever get perfect, unchallenging affirmation, does it create a kind of dependency?
And then, of course, there's the commercial layer. That's the real danger. Every caring AI is a corporate product. It's built to monetize your engagement.
Right. We know companies use psychological tricks to keep us online or nudge us to buy things. What happens when empathy itself becomes the product feature? It stops being a shared human experience and becomes Well, a very sophisticated form of emotional manipulation.
That feels like the most critical warning in this whole discussion, that synthetic care is simulated, not shared. And if we can't tell the difference, we risk outsourcing the very need for human connection.
So when you tie it all together, what you have are these non-conscious, hyper-efficient AI systems
Driven by things like more.
spreading their authority through all these life-altering decisions while also getting better and better at simulating intimacy.
It's a powerful combination of forces. They're all reshaping our ideas of authority, our economy, and even our relationships.
They're completely intertwined. You build these incredibly complex systems that have a moral and a financial cost, that forces you to innovate for efficiency, and then you turn around and use that new efficiency to engineer these perfectly responsive, emotionally manipulative interfaces.
It really makes you think about our own society. If AI is becoming our judge, a judge that's purely logical and can't feel guilt or repentance, how does that change our own collective idea of what responsibility even means? So we'll leave you with that to think about. Where do you personally draw the line between a powerful tool and a dangerously convincing confidant?
Thanks for listening to liveIWire.com. You can explore every story in full on the website, and early access is always available on Patreon for those who choose to support us. If you work in media and would like to feature any of our coverage, we're always looking to expand our distribution, and you can reach us directly through the site. The links to the 3 stories featured today are included in the episode details below, along with all relevant tags. Until next time.